Throughout history, authoritarian regimes have often clashed with secret societies, seeing them as threats to their control and ideology. One of the most violent confrontations occurred during the rise of Nazi Germany.
With this deception, another great political coup.
The regent later on sent a letter back.
Was the ideological conflict between Nazism and Freemasonry, examining why the Nazis targeted Freemasons and how this persecution unfolded during the Third Reich.
Hello.
The origins and ideals of Freemasonry. Freemasonry is one of the oldest fraternal organizations in the world, with roots tracing back to the late 16th century. Built on the values of brotherhood, charity, and intellectual development, the organization has a long-standing tradition of secrecy, rituals, and symbolism.
It's a combination of history, tradition, and mystery as well.
You know there's ritual, but you don't know what it is.
Exactly.
And that, how can you not be?
That's alluring.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the reason people join Freemasonry and not the Rotarians.
Freemasons have always advocated for self-improvement, moral integrity, and the betterment of society through education and charitable acts.
The supreme architect of the universe.
Masonic lodges, which operate across the world, promote the principles of personal liberty,
burned as a blazing fire through the last 3 centuries.
Equality, and fraternity, often bringing together members from various nationalities, religions, and social backgrounds. This inclusivity and universalist philosophy were viewed with suspicion by authoritarian regimes like Nazi Germany, which thrived on exclusion, division, and state control. The ideological roots of Nazism. In contrast, Nazism emerged in the early 20th century, built on the ideas of extreme nationalism, racial purity, and totalitarianism.
Richtig hältst, ob du glaubst, dass ich fleißig gewesen bin, dass ich gearbeitet habe, dass ich mich in diesen Jahren für dich eingesetzt habe.
Adolf Hitler and his Nazi party envisioned a world in which the so-called Aryan race dominated all others. Central to Nazi ideology was the belief in German supremacy, anti-Semitism, and the rejection of liberal democracy. The Nazi worldview was based on the idea of control over thought, control over society, and control over the future. Freemasonry, with its ideals of pluralism, intellectual freedom, and moral autonomy, represented a challenge to this authoritarian agenda. Moreover, the secretive nature of Masonic lodges and their global reach made them appear even more threatening to the Nazis. Why did the Nazis target Freemasonry? The Nazis viewed Freemasonry as a part of a larger international conspiracy, frequently accusing it of collaborating with Jews in an alleged global Jewish Masonic conspiracy. Nazi propaganda painted Freemasons as enemies of the state, accusing them of subverting the Aryan cause through intellectual and moral opposition. In Hitler's mind, Freemasonry was a symbol of cosmopolitanism and the kind of internationalism that Nazis despised.
Verkünde die Spiele von Berlin zur Feier der 11. Olympiade neuer Zeitrechnung.
In Hitler's 1925 book Mein Kampf he wrote extensively about the threat he believed Freemasonry posed to the Nazi worldview. He saw Freemasons as part of a secret cabal working to undermine national identity and sovereignty, using their influence over finance and politics to thwart Germany's ambitions. By linking Freemasons to Jews, the Nazis extended their hatred beyond racial lines to target philosophical adversaries as well. Freemasonry as a symbol of resistance in a regime that demanded absolute loyalty to the state. Any organization that fostered independent thought was seen as a potential threat. Freemasonry's belief in brotherhood transcended race, nationality, and political ideology, fostering unity and collaboration among diverse individuals. This directly contradicted the Nazi belief in a racially pure, homogeneous society. Furthermore, the Masonic emphasis on self-governance and liberty made it difficult for Nazis to control the group. As an international order, Freemasonry also represented connections that transcended national borders, something that challenged the Nazi vision of national sovereignty. Thus, the suppression of Freemasonry was part of the broader Nazi effort to eradicate dissent, control ideas, and promote totalitarianism. Nazi persecution of Freemasons. Once the Nazis seized power in 1933, Freemasons became one of their targets. As part of the early wave of repression, Masonic lodges were forcibly closed, and their members were subject to harassment, arrests, and even executions. In 1934, the Nazi Party declared Freemasonry an illegal organization in Germany, seizing Masonic property and raiding lodges. Masonic books, symbols, and records were confiscated and often destroyed. Nazi forces viewed Freemasons as ideological enemies. In concentration camps, Freemasons were sometimes singled out for harsh treatment. Many were forced to wear red triangles which marked them as political prisoners. Others were subjected to brutal interrogations aimed at extracting information about the inner workings of the organization, reflecting the regime's deep paranoia. The role of propaganda in the anti-Masonic campaign. Propaganda played a critical role in the Nazi assault on Freemasonry. The regime sought to demonize the organization, linking it to the broader Jewish Bolshevik threat that Hitler claimed was working to destroy Germany.
Unser Vaterland die Bewegung, die beides einmal retten muss.
Pamphlets, speeches,
as symbolic of the desire of our two peoples never to go to war with one another again.
And radio broadcasts painted Freemasonry as a tool of international Jewry, intent on world domination. Publications like Asterisk, the Protocols of the Elders of Zion Asterisk, a discredited anti-Semitic text, were used to fuel the narrative that Freemasons and Jews were conspiring together. By associating Freemasonry with Jews, communists, and other so-called enemies of the state, the Nazis created a climate of fear and suspicion that justified their actions. The average German citizen, bombarded with propaganda, began to see Freemasons as traitors working against the national interest. Freemasonry's underground resistance. Despite the repression, Freemasonry did not completely disappear during the Nazi era. Across occupied Europe, some Freemasons went underground, continuing their activities in secret. While their influence was diminished due to Nazi persecution, their resilience was notable. In some cases, Freemasons took part in resistance movements against the Nazis, leveraging their international connections and organizational skills. These acts of defiance were risky and came at great personal cost. Freemasons who were caught could face imprisonment or death. Nevertheless, their efforts symbolized the fight for intellectual freedom and personal liberty in the face of tyranny. The legacy of Nazi persecution on Freemasonry. The persecution of Freemasons by the Nazis left lasting scars on the organization, particularly in Germany and other parts of Europe where the Nazi regime held power. After World War II, many Masonic lodges were in disarray, and some members were lost to the atrocities of the concentration camps. However, Freemasonry survived the war, thanks in part to its deep historical roots and its network of lodges across the globe. After the fall of the Nazi regime, Masonic lodges in Germany and across Europe slowly began to rebuild. The post-war period also allowed Freemasonry to reflect on the lessons of the Nazi era, strengthening its commitment to the values of liberty, tolerance, and intellectual independence. Conclusion: the conflict between Nazism and Freemasonry was a stark example of the dangers posed by totalitarian regimes to organizations that promote intellectual freedom and moral autonomy. The Nazis viewed Freemasonry as a threat because of its commitment to liberty, equality, and fraternity, values that ran counter to the Nazi agenda of control, division, and state dominance. Freemasonry's resilience in the face of Nazi persecution is a testament to the enduring power of ideas. Even in the darkest periods of history, institutions dedicated to the promotion of human dignity and free thought can survive and rebuild. The persecution of Freemasons during the Nazi era remains a chilling reminder of the importance of protecting freedoms that allowed diverse voices to thrive.